Now on to today's topic, exhibition management, perspective from the pros. And I have the pleasure of introducing you to all of these three professionals that are in the field. We'll start with Kevin. He is the president for Lantern Events, Pumpkins After Dark, and more to come on that unique event. Kevin is truly passionate about producing live events and has been enjoying the rush for more than 19 years. He has worked in all areas in the world of exhibition management and has a diverse event portfolio. Connecting people and providing them with an experience that they will always remember is what keeps him motivated and is also incredibly gratifying. I'm also told he has some very interesting, entertaining stories from some of his unique clients. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank
Next
you.
we have, and we'll get into those stories afterwards for sure. Jill, next we have Jill, who is a regional VP and VP of Sponsorship Marketplace Events and a graduate of the Alberta School of Business at the University of Alberta. Her love of decor and interior design pairs well with her profession as she oversees 12 annual home shows in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Seattle, and 2 wedding shows in Phoenix. When she's not racking up frequent flyer miles, she volunteers at the food bank and doting on her Rhodesian Ridgeback, Dalton. Thanks for joining us, Jill.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Anita, Director of Business Development and Partnerships at BC Place. Anita has 25 years of experience in the industry with the Vancouver Convention Center and BC Place Stadium. She was responsible for focusing on new business ventures and overseeing a portfolio that includes trade and consumer events, film and TV, sports and esports, as well as other special events. Her most notable events include the CFL Grey Cup festivals, Canada Day, and New Year's Day celebrations. Her focus today is charting a path to have BC Place globally recognized as Canada's home stadium. Here comes FIFA 2026. And rumor has it, she secretly has multiple rugby sevens costumes hidden away in her office.
Who told you?
Not sure about it. As I said, it's rumor has it. So let's get started. First of all, I would love it if you could start off by telling us a little bit more about how you landed your role and what attracted you to this part of the industry. And I'm also told that some of you may go off topic or go a little long, so we have the bell here in case it gets a little out of control. So, but let's start with Jill.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, almost 19 years in the industry. I started in sales, and when I got this job, it was my dream job. I grew up going to the Edmonton Home and Garden Show with my mom, and I always loved, as you mentioned in my bio, home decor. Subscribed to all the magazines, and I worked in the gardening industry when I was in university as well. So I just pinched myself that I got to work on these events. And, I strongly believe to be successful in sales, you have to believe in the product that you're selling. And I loved it. The only challenge was I had no idea what I was getting into working in the actual events. That was a bit of an awakening, sore feet, putting all of our clients in one building at the same time under really stressful conditions. I had no idea that's what we were getting into. So it was a bit of an awakening, but 19 years later, obviously moved into the role I'm in now on the management team, and haven't looked back. It's been a pretty wild ride, and yeah, I love everything about it.
Fell into it, but now that you're stuck here, there's nowhere else to go, right?
That's
so
right.
Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, a little bit like Jill, kind of fell into it more by fluke. I was pretty young at the time, and I probably would have done anything to avoid going back to school. And I was offered a 1-year contract to travel around with a trade show company, help them out with the setting up and the tearing out of the shows, logistics, things like that. And we had a really diverse portfolio. We traveled all around Canada, woodworking shows, sewing shows, the taboo show, pet shows, and I just kind of fell in love with the gig in the industry. And I've become very passionate about events ever since. and I haven't really looked back. I signed up with that company shortly after that contract was finished. I worked my way up right from the bottom to the top, worked probably every aspect of the business, and here I am now, living the dream with the exception of the last couple of years.
Fantastic. Anita, how did you find your way to this position that you're in now?
You know, I think probably the age group that we fall in, or the time period, I'm going to follow suit. It was actually by accident. I came to the convention center to work for a summer job because I was on break from university, and I was blown away because 1990 had no clue what an event industry, tourism, conventions, conferences really meant. It felt like it was something magical that got set up and quickly done in probably half a day. Realities kicked in, and these shows just got magically put on. But it was the bug bit me, and I stayed on. And so I was fortunate to have worked right from the bottom, working from frontline staff to event operations, event management, and then joined the sales team about 20 years ago. And from there, basically got to, expose myself to that didn't come out right, sorry. Got exposure to all of these other markets.
You can do that at some shows, it's okay.
I was gonna say, those are Kevin's shows where you can expose yourself.
So got to work the international trade and consumer, special events, all of these markets, and really, I think, realized what I wanted to be when I grew up, when the West Building opened up and got an opportunity to work new business development. And it was, tripling in size with that building and realizing that we couldn't keep sustained with the volume of business that we had. We were going to be expanding. There was lots of conventions, but there was also a diversification of our business model mix that had to happen. And so figuring out new ways to do either film shoots or do special events, MMA events, poor Adam, I think I gave him most of his gray hairs. But yeah, it was really a huge collaborative process, but that's what I found my passion, and joined the stadium 2019, a few months before COVID. So again, dream completely crushed, but it's coming back to life now. There's lots of exciting things happening.
It's true. I mean, the events, live events, people want to be in person. We're seeing concerts pick up and just booming, which is fantastic. We did receive some questions beforehand, and inquiries want to know a little bit more about what are some tips and tricks you have when working with sponsors and exhibitors to maintain a strong relationship. Either of you want to start?
Sure. Is that okay, Jill?
Yeah, please.
Something I've always tried to do, and also tell my staff when we were selling, again, a very diverse portfolio, when you're dealing with different levels and different styles of clients, is transparent communication is a big one. Sometimes people get too caught up trying to make the sale, and if you aren't fully transparent about how it's going to go, you can end up having unhappy sponsors and vendors on the other side. It's also really important, I believe, to understand how your client measures their ROI, because it may be different than you do. So when you understand their goals and you understand what they're looking for, then you can help execute on your side. Is a big one. Just really understanding their business. I really encourage all my salespeople, before they make a phone call to any business, to take some time to look into it. What do they do? What's new? What new products do they have? What's happening? So that you can engage in a good conversation, and you can help carry that into the deal, and then what hopefully happens on the show floor. The other thing I have to say about that is a lot of salespeople seem to quickly leave their client hanging, maybe after the deal's done. And that goes back to the communication. Once they've signed the contract and given you their deposit, hopefully your business has a way to keep them involved in how the show is progressing, what is expected of them, and that kind of thing. Those would be the tops for me that I would suggest.
Yeah, setting expectations and making sure that you're over communicating. I think probably, obviously it was important before, but probably even more so now, post-COVID. Jill or Anita, anything else to add to that?
I couldn't have said it better myself. That was that was pretty perfect, Kevin. I'll just add that, you know, this is something that marketplace events for, I've got some of my staff are on the call here, so they obviously know this already, but you know, we produce consumer events, and you know, our biggest revenue source is our exhibitors and our sponsors. It's not the attendees. It's not the people when they, you know, they pay $12, $16, depending on the show they go to walk in the door. That's, you know, that's maybe 20% of our revenue. 80% is exhibitors and sponsors. And so we need to keep them happy. When you say, how do you keep them happy? You know, we need to do everything we can within our power, which, as we said, the last couple of years have been tough, but, you know, to really understand, like Kevin said, their business and know what makes them tick, and, you know, try to be as transparent as possible with them, because without them, you know, we're not able to run our events. You know, we're not people don't hand us money to produce these events. We have to raise our own. So the exhibitors and sponsors are so important to us. And just one other quick thing, you know, when Kevin said being transparent about the shows, you know, we're not selling an ad in the newspaper, right? We're selling, you know, $2,000 for a 10 by 10 booth, but that's not where the costs end, right? You've got to staff it, you got to put flooring in, you have to build a display, you have transportation, you've got feeding your staff meals when they're on site. There's so much more to exhibiting than just paying the money and booking a booth. And if people think that that's all it is, then, you know, they're in for a rude awakening when, you know, a week before the show, they've got to pay for all these extra services. So that's where the transparency comes in. And I think communication as well is making sure they're prepared. So.
Okay, we really need to roll the red carpet out now on the other side of the pandemic, in my opinion. Like, you know, all these businesses have existed now for the last couple of years without us or with very little of us. So if their business has gotten even better, now it's on us to win them back. And that's obviously, you know, specific to the show that you're producing or the event that you're producing. But yeah, it's all going to come down to communication and really justifying our existence these next few years.
No, those are great reminders, because I know a lot of us who attend trade shows ourselves, we kind of go, wow, that's a lot. But, you know, of course, you've got to pay for other people's staff, you know, the lead up time beforehand. Anita, did you want to add anything?
I'll just add from a venue perspective, I think the biggest thing for us is making sure that we're having those conversations as early as possible with our clients, so that there is actually an understanding of what that shift has been caused from the last 2 years, because a lot of people have shifted what their needs, what their priorities are and objectives. And so for us, it's integral. And of course, we have 2 major trade shows in our building. We've actually got an expanded interest in more trade shows, but for us, it's really understanding is what are those next goals and objectives, and what is the shift in market causing our clients, because there's no longer just a relationship of venue and client. It's a lot more about that collaboration.
And it's really hard too, Anita, probably because you have clients like myself and like Jill, where we're climbing out of this thing, but so are you. I mean, you guys are the big guys, but you've had it just as hard as we have. So it makes it so difficult on the rebuild side of things, right?
Absolutely. That's so well said, because I think, you know, sometimes when you do have those conversations and you're having it numerous times, as you are with exhibitors, and maybe someone's asking for a break in a certain way, but really understanding the holistic picture will really help you support each other through that regrowth, because I don't see this regrowth happening just in the next 3 months or 6 months. I actually see this happening for a good 18 months to 2 years of how long the cycle will take all of us.
Yeah, 100%.
No, I definitely agree as well. Here's another great question. I think we all have a writer's block, or we suffer from some sort of creative inspiration to change things up. What do you do to keep an annual show fresh, or design trends that you look for when you're trying to get inspiration? Do you want to start, Anita? Or I
just copy what Jill does.
Honestly, it's the best flattery if someone's mimicking what you're doing, right? So
it's kind of weird since you don't run home shows, but that's cool if you want to.
It is weird.
If you want to copy
Brian Ballmer at the Taboo show was right? not a hit. Yeah.
That's a whole different, I'll start, I guess. You know, sometimes you think of running annual events as Groundhog's Day, and I'm sure, you know, from a meeting planning planner's standpoint, it can feel that way a bit too, right? It's how do you keep it fresh year after year? And you know, the kind of the cool thing about what we do with annual events like that are consumer related, if something didn't work, oh well, we get to try something different next year. If something's successful, we can grab onto that and continue to use it. You know, we try to spend as much time as possible picking up on or learning about the trends. You know, everyone wants to know what are the trends in home design and decor. Well, we're not necessarily experts, but we have to try to grab onto those trends for the home shows in particular, and wedding and flower shows and that we do as well. You know, I spend a lot of time on Pinterest and Instagram and trying to come up with new ideas. Again, picking up on trends. The fall show that we did at the convention center, we had a luxury picnic set up because all of a sudden, you know, during the pandemic, all these luxury picnic companies started. So we're like, let's grab onto that. Let's show what that looks like. Help promote this woman's business. Houseplants. Ridiculous, right? Everyone got houseplants. So we worked with a really cool local company called Plantum, and you know, they did stage presentations, they did terrarium workshops. So always kind of trying to come up with what the trends are. Probably a little easier in the home and garden world, right? You know, you can flip on HGTV, you can grab a magazine, you can hop on Pinterest, and we can pick up on those trends. So that's what we do.
What other industries are influencing? Is there gaming industry coming into what you're doing a little bit differently, or any other themes that you're starting to see creep into your shows?
I think that Jill really nails it when she says keeping up on trends and what's new, not just with the industry that your show may be representing, but also with the consumer is a big one. Another thing that we've done in the past and do often is we go to our large vendors and our sponsors and we say, hey, we're looking for a new feature or a new idea. What have you always wanted to do at the show? What do you think the show is missing? And we do a lot of collaboration with our existing vendors and sponsors. And not only does that help you get new, fresh ideas, but it also, you know, brings your clients into being part of the production of the event. And that's something that we've done a lot in the past. As simple as reconfiguring the floor plan, you know, changing the color schemes, you know, really basic stuff, as long as it looks different when they come there. Like Jill says, annually, Groundhog Day, the same show, you've got to have different entertainment, different people, and different draws. And a lot of it comes from just keeping up on what's hot. You know, you don't want to do the same thing over and over again, but you also want to make sure you recognize what works and what the people do come down and see, and don't change too much. So there's a bit of a balance there for sure.
Yeah. From a venue perspective, I'll add is absolutely everything that Jill and Kevin are saying are accurate. It's also from a venue side, I would say, is taking advantage of the environment that you're in. Is what are those unique aspects that you can use to your advantage for the space that you're going into? Obviously, for us, you know, like our sister venue, VCC, and Jeff can attest to this, and Adam, but the majority of trade shows do go in there. And what we're finding for the ones that are expressing interest to come to the stadium, they're actually customizing their fit of their show to come into the space, because whether they're looking for a different experience or whether they're looking for some larger space, they're just looking for something that they can then take advantage of to show value back, so that it's not maybe something the same thing that they've done previously, because there has been such a long break of some shows that have taken place. So it's taking advantage or being as unique as possible when people are resuming.
Yeah, I mean, I was just in a trade show that was at Oracle Stadium. So again, a very unconventional place to have a trade show, but try to build around it. And then of course, incorporating some activation stations. Are you seeing activation stations becoming more of the trend versus someone just standing there with their business cards, or, hey, took a look at my booth and that's it? Or do you find exhibitors are trying to engage more?
I think vendors are trying to engage more. You know, standing there and just handing out a business card is okay, and maybe gets the job done, you know, depending on the situation of the event. But at the end of the day, you know, now that it kind of feels like there's almost like a rebirth of events here, and a whole new industry, you know, plagued by the last couple of years. A lot of people want to get back to the good old days, but we need to incorporate all this new stuff and everything. That COVID-19, you know, shone such a light on technology, that finding engaging ways to use technology and new features and stuff to engage with your vendors and your attendees is going to be a big part of the rebuild, I believe.
Yeah.
I agree. What do you think has changed with the audience since COVID? Have you noticed a difference in your audience members when they're coming into the trade shows? Are they looking for things differently, or anything that's unique about the actual trade show attendee?
Yeah, I can speak to that from, we started running events, marketplace events and home shows in Calgary in September last year, and we made it all the way through till April. It was not easy. It was crazy. It was, constantly not knowing what was going to happen next, and not knowing who was going to come, and we sell online tickets, so we're able to track how that's rolling along. But it was a little scary as to who was going to show up and if anyone was. But what we found that less tire kickers, not people weren't, it's a pandemic, so do you really just kind of want to go out for a day, in a pandemic and walk around a home show? No. But are you looking to work on a project around your home? Yes, and you will be willing to come out. So that, we found that the quality of the people coming to our events was really, really high. And that's what our exhibitors and sponsors, who they want to see that, right? They want people who are there to spend money and come with a project in mind. Kind of gone are the days where someone would just like grab the family and walk around the home show just for something to do, partly because of pricing as well, the cost to come in, the cost to park. So yeah, the quality was exceptional, and 90% of our exhibitors want that. They want quality attendees. 10%, we call them the Kevin knows them well, the pitch guys, the direct sell, the as seen on TV. They want quantity and quality, right? But for the most part, we didn't get that. We were down over previous years. And I see someone had a question about, do we think it's going to come back? And I think Anita referenced that we do. I think we will get back to our pre-pandemic levels, but it's going to take a couple of years. It's going to take a couple of years for people to feel comfortable, for some of their disposable income to even out. Everyone had tons of it, and now everything's going expensive, and so that causes people to maybe not spend as much money. So it's going to take a few years for stuff to shake out and kind of get back to normal. So that's the major shift that we've seen, is really quality over quantity.
Well, so I was going to say, are you feeling like the revenues from these shows are higher, but the attendance is maybe lower? Or at least flat? I don't know. If you might not be able to answer that. Your sponsors would, or your exhibitors would probably say. I just feel like I know from exhibiting the last couple of shows, the attendance might have been smaller. As you said, the quality is better, and the revenues seem to be, at least if not flat to 2019, higher.
Yeah, I mean, we from the vendor perspective, we've had vendors say, we've gotten more leads, or we've sold more X than we had pre-pandemic. So yes, like they did extremely well, and our renewal numbers show as well. People who are ready to come back, even though we rolled their money for 2 years, they did the show, and it was so great that they've already given us money again. So that again speaks to the industry, that it is going to come back really strong. So.
Agreed.
Enough about home shows. Sorry, Kevin.
No, I mean, the quality is there for sure. I mean, we've seen the same thing. We ran a few events as well in the fall, same time as Jill, and the quality is definitely there. But I don't know how the vendors are measuring quality quite yet, because also the competition isn't there. So we didn't have as many people, but we didn't have as many vendors. So it was still successful for both sides, but it was just on a smaller scale. And I haven't quite seen that formula change. Like, everyone's kind of been down in attendance and down in vendor and sponsor sales equally across the board that I've talked to. And we've seen it tick up a little bit, in some of those shows. Like, I know there was an RV show in Ontario a few weeks ago, and they had record crowds. But that's an industry that exploded during the pandemic. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the boat shows and the motorcycle shows and the car shows, and there'll be some good indicators out there for sure. But it's tricky too, because now we're catering to instead of one mentality, and what I mean by that is people do still want to feel safe when they come to events. So now you're trying to, watch your dollars and cents, and it'd be great if you could just get lots of space and make it comfortable for people, but that's not always possible. And then you've got the people who just want things back to the way it was, and they don't want different restrictions in place and stuff. So now we're caught in the middle, we're balancing this whole thing. And I think that goes for consumer shows or B2B events as well. And that's going to be really cool to watch and see how and I hate the word, I don't want to, sorry for even saying it, pivot and change how we do things and what we're going to do moving forward. But we're going to have to be innovative as an industry for sure. And it's going to be, I don't think the roller coaster ride is quite done yet. I think we're done the loop-de-loops, but there's still some stuff to come.
And David, you had this question, and this would be a good one for Anita. Do you think that there's enough space suitable for trade shows in BC? Are you feeling in your, from the venue perspective that there's a crunch?
I will, and I don't want to speak on behalf of, people looking for space, but my assumption is, yes, there is definitely a lack of space. Obviously for the last 2 years, there wasn't, but as business is resuming, trying to maintain that volume based on space availability, we're having a hard time. And I know Jeff is nodding his head. He's feeling the exact same pressure. And again, that's just because we're all experiencing kind of this, shift in business and demand. But, I think it's the type of space that people are looking at. Like when you take a look at a TradeX or a convention center or P&E, and that's the more traditional style, trade show space. Is there enough of that? Is there enough of that in the space that people are looking at? And when I say that, I mean geographically, right? So, some people are wanting to do their shows in a downtown core close to transit, or some may do much better, like some trade shows that have done out in TradeX. I don't know where the last piece is for TradeX, but I know there was some volatility as to what some of those trade shows were going to be doing out in that region as well. But I genuinely do feel, and I'm happy for someone to add some comments there even on the call here, but I think we are short on space right now.
I think Brad can attest there's some stuff happening in Burnaby soon, so with some new space. So it's happening, maybe not just quick enough. This is, I guess, for Kevin specifically about running your experiential events like the Halloween or the Pumpkins After Dark. Is that born out of exhibition shows, or are you just feeling, again, the trend being post-COVID that this type of event is becoming more popular?
Yeah. I think people out there, now that there's been this big break in being able to do things, people really want an experience, and they want an experience that they can bring their family and friends to. So I've really changed my career and gotten away from trade shows, and I'm producing now, as you mentioned earlier, Pumpkins After Dark and another event, Scream Fest, that are really family friendly oriented events, but they're designed to just give people something to do for an hour or two. And I think that is something that's lacking out there. I think it's going to come back like fast, and I'm going to have tons of competition in that department. But yeah, I think that the trade show industry is and just events in general is in for a tough rebuild. When you look at labor shortages and inflation and the fact that we've been on hold for the last 2 years, it's a tough hole to climb out of. Lucky anyone left in the events industry is resilient and tough and probably, going to be there to hopefully overcome that. But I'm very interested in trying new events and experimenting for sure, which is part of the reason why I've changed direction a little bit in my career.
That's great. And anybody have any insight into the role of VR and AR in live events? Are you seeing it? Any experiences to talk about?
Well, I actually haven't been on a virtual call in like months. This is actually kind of weird to be on. I don't know, Jill, Anita.
I don't know. I mean, in terms of, I guess, are you thinking at the live event, there being more VR and AR. It's, our events, again, speaking from mainly the home show perspective, and we have a couple wedding shows, in a way, our events are dictated a lot by what the vendors are doing in their booth, right? And what they're showcasing. So for the most part, especially to speak for the home shows in particular, our vendors are mom and pop, right? They're small businesses. Obviously we have the Sleep Country and Toyota and BC Hydro and some of these bigger companies and brands in the shows, but for the most part, it's Bob and Helen who have a cabinet refinishing company, and so they're not going that route. So a lot of it is really dictated by what our exhibitors are doing. We've had some companies. There's a company called Walk On Plans that has a really cool concept where you can actually, go into their space and walk through your home on your floor plan. So they had some VR stuff at the show you could look at, but we're not necessarily trailblazing on that. Part of it's cost. We
So
pop up a
expensive.
stage and we hire Brian Baumler and the crowds come to see him, so.
Yeah. Yeah, just to add on to that, Jill, it is so expensive. I know because we're looking at adding a VR haunt to our event, Screamfest, which would be really cool. If you can picture 4 or 5 people putting on the goggles and the backpacks, and they'd be in like a glass cube. And so you'd be watching them get scared, they'd be getting scared, whatever, but it costs a fortune. And there's so many easy at-home, virtual options and arcades and things out there. Like, it's already there. So if you really want to do it, you can. Is it necessary at some events as an attraction and a feature and for fun? Yeah, but the way of the future, don't think so.
I think that's the cool thing about running live events, whether it's Kevin's, whether it's sporting events at BC Place or home shows or wedding shows. The cool thing about it is people want to be back together live and not virtually, just being in a room together and having a face-to-face conversation and hopefully unmasked, hopefully we can continue down that path. And it's our company motto for Marketplace Events is producing, face-to-face vibrant marketplaces where, where consumers can do business with businesses. So it's tough to set up this live event and then have a bunch of stuff that's virtual. You know what I mean? Like I love, obviously there's going to be that world and out there, but I think that's the cool thing right now is that people want to get back to that live events, face to face and touch, feel, some hardwood and sit on a couch. You don't want to virtually sit on a couch. You actually want to sit on a couch.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I think from a venue side, like in terms of the diverse business that we see come into our venues, obviously sporting events, either people are going to come or they're not going to come. And maybe there is a bit of a larger viewership that is staying home to watch the game right now. We've seen a bit of a decline in some of our events. We're probably down, I would say 30% for people in the stands from previous. But I would say, maybe those meetings and associations where people are having to travel in for conferences. So that element of actually getting on a plane and then coming to a convention, maybe some of those organizers will keep that virtual element just because they want to make sure they're keeping it inclusive. But like, I definitely don't see it from the trade or consumer side. I think even the Sun Run, there was a virtual component of it. People could still participate because they were at a time that it was just opening. So it was just kind of, exactly. Like
that's my kind of marathon. Yeah.
Right? I am just sitting in your chair running along all day long.
I think it really depends. Whether it's an international, travel consumer, but at the same time, that delegate is only going to have to go through a few more measures before they can just, locally attend a trade show, which may be the majority of kind of some of the things that we see for our consumer shows that come in.
Yeah, we're gonna see hybrid events for a while, I think, and they're awesome because, I think more on the corporate side where, you can send a couple of key employees, but the whole team can still be part of it, right? So hybrid events are here to stay, I think, depending on the event. And that's one of the good things, I guess, that were born out of this, because it gives you the ability to do what you were just saying, Anita.
Absolutely.
And for a post show, it's great for people to, maybe they forgot something or couldn't attend all the sessions, right? It's post show is almost better and probably a little bit less expensive as well. I have some rapid fire questions for all of you. First one is what is something that you would love to try at an exhibition or event if you were given full creative control?
Well,
We'll start with Anita.
That's got to be Kevin. Oh, okay. I was
No,
gonna
that's
say,
not
Kevin's gotta have some
It's
ideas.
not going to be me because I'll be
Well,
the one that Kevin and Jill is asking maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
Okay, for you, it would be what event would you like to host? That would be
There
your,
we go.
I'll let Jill and Kevin start with this one first.
okay.
well, no, I mean, I already kind of said it, unfortunately, but I have full creative control, luckily, and I do get to do what I want, and I really want to see a VR haunt at some of our Halloween shows. I think it's not really something that's going to be anything other than a small added on feature, but it helps keep the show dynamic and you know, brings another layer of different things to do, I guess, at it, and you know, keeps get the show floor fresh and keep people coming back. And like I said, it's, you know, I think that there'll be a huge crowd around a little glass box watching a bunch of people get scared. I think it's kind of a cool idea. So that's what I'm trying to do this fall. It costs a fortune, so if anybody wants to shoot me an email after this and's got a good VR contact, I'm all ears.
The GoFundMe page.
Yeah, there you go.
Jill, what event would you like to, if you had anything you could do?
If I could do anything, I would do a really high-end food and wine event, like the New York City wine and food festival, but here in Vancouver, just to be able to really grab onto all the amazing stuff we have here, but make it next level. You know, our companies we did food events many years ago, and the attendees want to come. Like, there's ticket sales is not an issue. It's trying to get the vendors, you know, to buck up and be there. And you know, there's been food shows over the years at BC Place and the convention center, and yeah, it's the vendors, unfortunately, you know, they're usually small, you know, smaller companies and whatnot, but that's what I'd love to do is produce that. So somebody wants to fund me,
I'm in, let's do it.
okay.
Anita, what event would you love to be involved with?
Well, there's one that hasn't fully confirmed, but might be coming down the pipeline. So I'll leave it at that. That for me would have been the biggest, biggest feather in a cap, I would say.
All right. Okay. Now you got to
fingers crossed.
Okay. Now you've got us interested. So we'll stay tuned for an announcement. Most valuable tool you couldn't live without when executing a program. What's in your toolbox?
I don't know. Is it too obvious to say that you can't live without your phone on the show floor? I mean, what I got over COVID is I got a pair of those AirPods that I was very against when they first came out, and now I won't even answer. Like, I can't answer a phone without buds in my ears now. So that for me is the most important tool I use when I'm out and about and running around.
Jill, Anita, most valuable tool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. It's definitely your phone for sure. And I'm really lucky to work for Marketplace Events, and we've got some pretty amazing CRM and floor plan management tools that we've developed in-house. So unfortunately, I wish I could share all the details of them, but they're pretty amazing, and they've made our jobs so much easier. You know, from a sales perspective, for managing, for exhibitor communication. We've got so much data at our fingertips, and I can't imagine going to work for another event company and not having the tools we have. So we're really lucky that way.
Yeah, well, that's a great idea. You might be called up on some of that information, because you're right. I think a lot of people don't realize that all those technical tools does make your job easier on the front end, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Boiled.
What would be your biggest myth people have about your job?
That's easy. That it's glamorous. Some people think, oh, you're flying in this city, you're flying in that city, you know, you're doing this, doing that, oh, it must be great. Well, sometimes it can be glamorous, but I've also I've slept on the show floor of the VCEC and show office hall B 3 times. So it's glamorous, but it's not at the same time. That's an easy one, I think.
Jeff should be charging you hotel rates for that show office then.
Oh, see, you're always after us for that kind of stuff, eh?
Or
It's
Or
got
at least
it's got
make
a
it
bit of a-
nice and, you know,
I
have a
can't- I
coffee
can't-
bar in there.
Can't catch a nap, but you know, I've also slept in a limousine, you know, on the show floor before because we worked through the night to get the show in, and yeah, it's
It's
that's it.
glamorous.
Yeah.
Anita,
I'm the
Jill,
same. I can answer. I can answer that quickly too. The people think we only work if you're in charge of 2 events. Like, let's say you're the show manager for the 2 home shows here in Vancouver, or the sales rep, that you only work 2 weeks a year. Well, the event's only 2 weeks a year. You're like, oh, what? Like, they literally are like, what do you do the rest of the year? Like, if I had $1, all the times I answered that question over the years, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
doesn't
I
just
answer-
fall into place. I mean, you guys know from you know, we got venues on the call, we got meeting planners on the call. Like, just the general public just has no idea what goes into producing events. So
It's so true. I just answered a question the other day. Well, your events aren't till this fall, so what are you going to do all summer? Like,
Yeah.
well, you know, so that's accurate.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think the glamorous part of it, and you get to travel everywhere, and it is definitely easier than it, or they make it sound easier than it is. But one of the things I just wanted to add about the tools, like as a salesperson, I'm not on the floor servicing an event when it's here, but like honestly, one of the things that I thought we could quickly just touch on is the resources and the people that make these events happen. And that is not just from a venue side, that's from the meeting planner side, that's from the organizers, that's the show organizers. We're all facing the exact same serious issue of lack of resources, and, you know, being compassionate towards each other, trying to be as agile as possible. There are some hard times that we're all facing. And so I think those people that are actually making our show happen on a day-to-day basis is critical to all of us succeeding. And burnout is a real thing right now. I think there's a lot of people leaving this industry, a lot of people staying, but the ones that are staying, I think, like you said, Kevin, are the resilient ones. But that's something critical across, regardless what association we belong to, venue we belong to, we're all facing the exact same core issue right now.
And you'll get a lot further along if you recognize that, Anita, you know, and if you treat everybody in the industry the same way you treat everyone across the board,
Yeah.
you get a lot further. And see, you know, like Adam and Jeff shaking their head on the, you know, if you don't have a good relationship with your partners, like your facilities and your suppliers, well, you know, there's only so many of them out there. So that's good.
And I've realized quickly I'm starting a new tagline on my signatures. Apologies for the delay in getting back to you, is what my
well, it's good. I have a college son coming back on Monday without a job right now. So, you know.
Oh.
Well, that kind of concludes what I wanted to do, what we wanted to hear about. Anybody else have any other questions they'd like to ask these 3 expert speakers? I mean, collectively, you guys have over 75 years of experience or something like that. So that's sales math for you.
The girls have most of the experience though, right?
Exactly.
I'll jump.
Anybody else have any other questions? Sorry.
Yeah, just I was hoping, Jill, if you could spend a minute just telling us about CAEM. Most at MPI have not heard about CAEM before, and you're the incoming president. So I'd love to hear your quick pitch on CAEM.
Well, I've got Jennifer Ellaby's on the call. She's our executive director. So now the pressure's on. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, CAM is the Canadian Association of Exposition Management. So it's a collection of show producers in the trade and consumer industry, and all of our supporting partners, right, from venues to our show decorators, AV, all the people, all the things that help produce consumer and trade events. So it's a great association, and yes, I am incoming president. Very excited about that. We spent the last 2 years really trying to restart the industry, with a lot of help from people on this call, to try to just really, when we say, what are the myths about trade and consumer shows? Well, one of the huge myths is that, nobody understood what they were. Sorry, this wasn't a myth. People just didn't understand what they were. So we spent a lot of time trying to educate government, health officials as to what trade and consumer shows are, that we can run them successfully. And I think we did a fantastic job. Many shout outs to people on this call who are also involved in a lot of these task forces to try to get our industry restarted. And all those things help the meeting planners. They helped. We're all kind of in it together, and it's been great to. Adam's really tried to connect MPI and CAM, and I hope we can continue to do that, because at the end of the day, it's all about, like you said, it's the people. You guys are planning meetings, and you need people to be there and people to produce them, and we're the same in the trade and consumer show industry. So that's my pitch on CAM. If anyone is interested in membership, let me know. We have an annual conference coming up. So
well said. Well said. I'm just going to add on to it, because I've been a CAM member for a long time, and the networking and the opportunity that comes with being a part of that association is incredible. And the amount of business deals that came out of just attending the annual conference is amazing. And the friends that you make and the support that you get after, being part of that group is pretty great. So if you're an events professional and you're looking for an association to be a part of, it's an excellent one.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks so much for the pitch.
Was an excellent.
I wanted
pitch,
can I say a quick shout out? Sorry, Anita. I was just gonna have a quick shout out to, since everyone here is, obviously this is the BC chapter, but the Pavco buildings, BC Place and the Convention Center have been absolutely phenomenal to us during the pandemic. They helped us get through these shows in October and March, and we couldn't have done it without them. True partners, true professionals. So I just wanted to, anyone here who's obviously working with the buildings or planning events, I can't say enough great things about Anita, Jeff, Adam, and the whole team. So that's my quick shout out.
I second that.
You're way too nice. Thank you so much, Jill. But I just want to echo what Jill and Kevin have said about CAM. It's funny because I was talking to Darren, and I know I've talked to you, Terry, but Adam as well. I think whether we're looking at CAM, MPI, PCMA, there is a huge alliance and there's a huge connection between these organizations. And I think if there is an opportunity for us to come together more than less than what we have, I think there's a lot for us to learn from each other, a lot that we can share, because I think this recovery, as we all have said, is going to take a bit of time for all of us to get through. But if we can take away any best practices from each other, I think it'll just make our whole industry right across the board much stronger.
100%. And we've already seen people switch different jobs throughout all this, but over our careers too, right? So it doesn't mean that, somebody's going to be stuck in one area, is going to move to another one. One final question before I let you go. How has marketing for your trade shows events changed, and how do you plan to market them differently moving forward?
You want me to start?
Yeah,
sure. It's changed a lot. I mean, it was changing before the pandemic, and it's changed. I think it's sped it up dramatically. Hopefully there's no one on this call that's gonna be offended by this, but I don't use traditional advertising anymore. We don't buy billboards or radio or ads in print, even online print. Again, Pumpkins After Dark and Screamfest is a bit more unique than some trade shows and so on, but we basically completely rely on like online programmatic advertising, Facebook, Instagram, Google AdWords. And we see the success with it. We can track the success with it. We know when to spend, how much to spend, and when to spend with it. It's the only way to go, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah, big shift to digital, obviously, and for obvious reasons that Kevin just said. But we the home shows in particular, our demographic still skews a bit older. It has actually come down a good amount during the pandemic. Again, older people potentially not being as comfortable going out. So, but for the most part, the people that attend our events are homeowners, whether it's a home, a condo, so they do tend to skew, especially in the Vancouver market, obviously a little bit older. So we do still do some traditional advertising. So if you're in Calgary or Edmonton, you'll still see billboards. We don't do that as much in Vancouver, but newspaper, we still have some partnerships, but our partnerships have moved to a lot of digital. So the Vancouver Sun, the big landing page that's all dedicated to the home shows is is where we've shifted versus taking obviously the full page ads. But we still have some print and we still have radio and we still do TV, but you know, those costs have gone up so much, and I'm sure everyone is realizing that from their business standpoint. So yeah, it's having to have, at least you get that conversion rate with digital, right? We know when someone's clicked through and gone to actually buy a ticket on from our website. And so it's definitely shifted. The data, there's more data, right, that we can grab onto, which is, everyone wants the data these days.
Love
right?
the data.
Yeah, I love it.
So you need to follow everybody. Everyone needs to follow everybody all the
Yeah.
time.
Yes,
Get more
please.
follows. Well, I'm so proud that I didn't have to use the bell. So
Oh.
that was
You
awesome.
scared, you
But
scared us at the beginning with the bell, so I didn't want to have to be the first one wrong yet.
thank you so much for your time today. Again, thanks to our sponsors that we have that sponsor all of our events. And hopefully you guys are more than welcome to come to our MPI event. You're at Grouse Mountain. We would love to see you there on June 16th at Grouse Mountain. So hopefully we will see folks here on the call. And of course, if there's anything else we can do and get together, Jill, now that we're incoming presidents together, let's chat in a couple of months and talk about our calendars.
Awesome. Thank
you
you
Thank
guys.
you very
Thanks
much
so much for having us.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for joining. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.